A financially aided student roommate ruined her body chasing a man by getting cosmetic filler injections. I'd kindly recommended my family's reputable plastic surgery clinic to her. She called me a greedy profiteer out to swindle her. Then secretly bought cheap filler syringes online instead. Only $50 a vial. This is practically free. Her DIY filler breast augmentation went catastrophically wrong afterward. She fabricated a lie claiming my mother had performed the botched surgery and demanded an astronomical settlement payment. Our clinic collapsed under public outrage. My mother took her own life by jumping off a building. I drowned in crippling depression and died amid relentless online harassment. When I opened my eyes again, I'd traveled back to the exact day Tiffany Carter asked me whether I thought she should get breast work done. Luke Walker's got a thing for curvy women. If you want the surgery for love, go for it. Kissing the person you adore is never a mistake. Scarlett. Tell me straight, should I get a breast augmentation? Tiffany stood before the mirror in her faded freshman orientation tee, staring down at her flat torso. I glanced down at my own unharmed, natural body. I'd been reborn. In my past life, Tiffany had fixated on Luke, the sleazy campus library attendant, and rambled non-stop about wanting bigger breasts. No amount of reasoning could dissuade her, so I'd brought her to my mother's clinic for a consultation. Since she was my roommate, my mother assigned our top surgeon and quoted her the absolute lowest possible price out of kindness. On the walk back to the dorm, Tiffany's face turned sour. Scarlett, your family's clinic is such a shameless racket. You rake in all this dirty ill-gotten cash. No wonder your family's loaded. You'll earn the money, but never live long enough to spend it. I was furious at her biting the hand that feeds her, and ignored her for days afterward. A short while later, she paraded several filler syringes she bought online right in front of me. $500 for 10 vials total. Only a fool would drop 20 grand at your overpriced clinic. I warned her cosmetic injections were high-risk procedures, especially self-administered filler. That night, she sobbed to the whole dorm that I'd pushed her toward my family's business just to line my own pockets, leaving me isolated by every roommate. Once her self-injected augmentation failed, she live-streamed a violent protest outside our family clinic. She insisted my mother had personally operated on her, and even convinced our 2 other roommates to back up her fabricated story. This heartless girl dragged me here by force and pressured me into getting surgery at her family's scam clinic. Our entire family was dragged into nationwide public condemnation. The clinic folded. My mother jumped to her death. I was forced to drop out of university, and I wasted away from depression while internet trolls tore me apart online. Scarlett, I'm asking you, are breast augmentations super risky? Tiffany repeated, pulling me back to the present. A cold chill crawled down my spine. Then I smiled sweetly. Luke's obsessed with curvy women. If it's for true love, risking everything is worth it. Our other roommates walked in carrying takeout food, and Tiffany shot me a sharp look to shut me up. In my last life, I'd kept her secret crush entirely to myself. Tiffany, if this lands you a happy relationship with Luke, you've got to treat us all to a fancy feast afterward. Wait, what did we miss? Does Tiffany have a crush on someone? Scarlett, why'd you run your mouth like that? Tiffany snapped, furious I'd spilled her secret. Tiffany's had a thing for Luke forever, even planning to get breast filler to win him over. Luke worked as the campus library attendant, with a conventionally handsome soft face. Every time a girl turned in her books, his eyes would drift hungrily down to their chests. Rumors swirled around campus that Luke was a wealthy trust fund heir who only dated women with full curves. And Tiffany had clearly latched onto that gossip. A breast augmentation. You're really gonna get plastic surgery, Tiffany? Ivy Miller shrieked in shock. No. Nothing like that. I just wanted Scarlett to ask her family how much the procedure costs. Tiffany relied fully on financial aid for tuition. Her parents scraped by collecting trash for a living. If her little brother hadn't drowned years prior, she never would have been able to afford college at all. I can't help you with that favor. Actually, our clinic only caters to high-end clients. Mom also has a strict rule: she never takes friends or classmates as patients. If anything goes wrong, it's impossible to clear up misunderstandings. I'd been far too naive in my past life, dragging Tiffany straight to our clinic and triggering all that catastrophe for no reason. Scarlett, what's your problem? I always knew you looked down on me. Just because your family's rich you think you're better than everyone else. You're just scared I'll look prettier than you. And Luke will choose me instead. Ivy and Lila Davis jumped to defend her immediately. Don't get upset. Tiffany we're fully behind you. Once you've got that perfect curvy figure, Luke won't stand a chance against you. If you end up with Luke, you'll be a rich heir's trophy girlfriend. Don't forget your poor dorm room friends once you hit the big time. Tiffany soaked up their empty brow-nosing flattery until her head swelled with delusions. I pretended to take a phone call from my mother. What? You booked a surgeon for a minor tweak for me? Mom. I haven't even decided yet. I know it'd make me more beautiful. I just need time to think it over. Tiffany glared at me with unbridled resentment. Just wait and see who comes out on top. She immediately opened her discount shopping app Wish and started scrolling. I slipped noise-canceling headphones over my ears and buried myself in my textbooks. Without my warnings holding her back this lifetime, I was eager to watch just how far Tiffany would go down this self-destructive path. That weekend, I rushed home to visit my mother. Watching her elegant, healthy, alive self standing in front of me, I burst into relieved tears. Silly girl. Why are you crying all of a sudden? Nothing, I just missed you so much. I leaned my head against her shoulder. Hey mom, quick question, what happens if someone injects cosmetic filler into their breasts by themselves at home? That's incredibly reckless. People have died from mistakes like that. Our front desk receptionist took a phone inquiry just the other day, some kid asking how much filler costs and whether you could inject it for breast augmentation. Young people make such terrifying reckless choices these days. Mom pulled out a stack of informational flyers listing all the risks and contraindications for cosmetic filler injections. Take these back to your dorm to pass around and warn your classmates. I set the flyers out on our shared dorm table. Tiffany's online filler shipment arrived that same afternoon. And she waved the vials around proudly for everyone to see. $500 for 10 vials of this stuff. Greedy clinics mark it up to $2,000 a syringe. All to pocket dirty ill-gotten cash they don't deserve. I ignored her, quietly wondering where she'd gotten $2,000 in the first place. Back in my past life, I'd shared every single one of my belongings with her, knowing her family struggled financially. The next morning, I found empty injection needles discarded in the shared bathroom stall, while Tiffany was down the hall filling her water jug. I rushed back into the dorm and feigned absolute panic, yelling loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh my God, why is there a medical syringe in our dorm room? Ivy and Lila hurried over at my shout. Can you quit screaming first thing in the morning? You scared the daylights out of us. They froze when they spotted the needle on the floor. How did this get here? Did someone hurt themselves? A plan clicked into place instantly. This looks exactly like the needles people use for hard drug injections on TV. What if someone in our dorm is using narcotics? The two girls paled with fear, scrambling to figure out what to do. This is way too serious for us to handle alone. We have to report this to our dorm RA and student affairs counselor right away. By the time Tiffany walked back in with her water jug, the RA and campus counselor were already questioning us about the syringe's origin. She froze in the doorway, radiating guilt. If we can't figure out who left this here, we'll have to call the police. And all four of us will face official disciplinary probation. The second probation was mentioned. Ivy and Lila erupted in anger. Own up to what you did. Don't hide behind everyone else and drag us all down with you. Tiffany's face flushed bright red, then turned deep purple. I tugged Ivy's sleeve subtly, darting my eyes toward Tiffany's chest. Ivy was brutally blunt, the perfect person to voice what we'd all noticed. It's definitely Tiffany. She's been obsessing over breast augmentation for weeks. And her chest is obviously way bigger than it used to be. Lila caught on instantly. You're right. She snuck off to the bathroom for ages last night. All secretive. She's been injecting filler into herself. Tiffany's face turned completely black. And she dropped all pretense. So what if I used them? What rule in the student handbook says college students can't get cosmetic breast work? The counselor and RA shook their heads helplessly and left us to sort it out among ourselves. I pulled out the informational flyers Mom had given me and tried to explain all the deadly filler risks to Tiffany in front of the other roommates. She cut me off before I could say a single full sentence. My family barely scrapes by. Don't I deserve the right to feel beautiful too? This is my body, my choice, And I don't need you two minding your own business and nagging me non-stop. After that fight, Tiffany alienated every single person in our dorm. Her laundry rack quickly filled with cup bras, then cups. And within days she was wearing garments sized for an A-cup bust. Her style shifted drastically as well. She only bought shirts with plunging necklines that exposed most of her chest, turning her into the most talked about person on campus. Her desperate attempts to catch Luke's attention finally paid off, and they began parading around campus hand in hand for everyone to see. The day before Tiffany's birthday, she invited our entire dorm out for dinner. Scarlett, I'm craving high-end Japanese fusion for my birthday dinner. Luke's coming too. So book a fancy, upscale restaurant and pick anything cheap and embarrassing. In my previous life, I'd foot the bill for a lavish feast for the whole dorm every single year on her birthday. She really did think I was an easy mark to exploit. I let out a cold laugh. It's your birthday, why would I pay for your meal? You're gonna be a rich heir's trophy girlfriend soon. How can you even ask me to cover your tab? Tiffany hadn't expected me to refuse, and her face burned bright red with humiliation. I'm letting you join my birthday celebration, you should be grateful. Luke's bringing several trust fund heir friends with him. One of them might take a liking to you too, and you'd hit dumb luck and land a wealthy boyfriend. At the mention of meeting rich young men, Ivy and Lila rushed to smooth things over. Come on, Scarlett, you always treated us in past years. What's one more fancy meal? They truly were two peas in a pod with Tiffany. I tossed out a compromise idea. What if we split the bill evenly? We could splurge on a 4-star Michelin restaurant for once. The roommates immediately fell silent. They all came from average income families, and none could afford fine dining at that price point. Tiffany refused to back down. You're just bitter and jealous of me. You're mad Luke picked me over you, aren't you? Luke was nothing but a serial flirt. Back in my last life he'd harassed me repeatedly until my male cousin came to campus and punched him to scare him off. You'd better keep a tight leash on him. Last week I returned my library books and caught Luke staring at another senior girl's hips like he wanted to glue his eyes to her. Tiffany ground her teeth in rage. That's a total lie. Luke only has eyes for me, no one else. She flopped back onto her bed and reopened her discount shopping app again. I snorted silently. Looks like she'd need to buy brand new underwear in larger sizes too. The morning of her birthday, Tiffany made a loud announcement to the whole dorm. Tonight we're dining at the Grand Regency Hotel. My darling Luke's got a huge surprise planned for me. All of you have to dress up nice and come watch him propose to me. Wow, Tiffany Suntobe, trophy girlfriend of a wealthy heir. You've got such game. Tiffany pointed down at me from her lofty self-important posture. You're coming too, Scarlett. Sit back and watch who truly ends up with wealth and status. I can't wait to see how massive her statement diamond engagement ring is. When we arrived at the hotel banquet room, dozens of strangers filled the space. Tiffany wore a tight low-cut top that exposed nearly all her chest, and Luke's hand rested carelessly all over her bust without shame. Tiffany had ordered every luxury dish on the menu: caviar, black truffle, lobster tails, a 5 Wagyu steak, every expensive delicacy imaginable, from seafood to premium meat. I ignored Luke's lecherous stares and focused entirely on eating my meal. Once everyone finished their food, Tiffany stood up abruptly, turned to Luke, held out her left hand ready for a ring, and closed her eyes expectantly. The entire room fell dead silent. Luke stood frozen, making no move at all. I started clapping and yelling to egg everyone on. Propose, propose. The rest of the guests caught on instantly and joined my chant. Propose, propose. Forced by the crowd's pressure, Luke dragged himself to his feet, grabbed a soda can pull tab off the table, and slipped it roughly onto Tiffany's finger as a half-hearted joke ring. I burst out laughing so hard food sprayed out of my mouth. Tiffany thought she'd just received $1 million diamond ring when she saw the cheap aluminum pull tab wrapped around her finger. Her oversized bust heaved up and down with unbridled fury. Babe, quit joking around. Where's the real engagement ring hidden? She reached into Luke's jacket pockets to search for it. Luke's eyes kept darting over toward me, and he shoved Tiffany away hard out of irritation. Who the hell told you I was ever gonna propose to you? The force of his push sent Tiffany stumbling forward, and her chest slammed hard against the edge of the round dining table. When she stood back up, a deep indent split her augmented bust straight down the middle. separating it into two misshapen lumps. Holy shatter, you some kind of monster. Luke leaped backward in terror. Luke's friends roared with mocking laughter. You've got terrible taste. Luke. How could you hook up with something that looks like that? Smack. Luke raised his palm and struck Tiffany hard across the face, leaving 5 clear finger-shaped bruises on her cheek. I winced just watching the blow land. You worthless leech. No wonder you always insisted we turn all the lights off and wouldn't let me touch you properly. You're not even attractive enough to shine my shoes. How dare you think I'd ever marry you? Her delusions of marrying into wealth shattered completely, and Tiffany threw all dignity aside to scratch and punch Luke right there in front of everyone. Her misshapen filler breasts hung half-exposed as they fought, a deeply cringe-inducing sight. Several guests pulled out their phones to film the chaos. I slipped out of the banquet room while everyone was distracted by the brawl. That feast alone must have cost at least $20,000. And Luke would never volunteer to pay the full tab. Fleeing the scene was the smartest choice. I hid out in the library until dark, then headed back to the dorm to shower. Ivy and Lila stumbled in hours later. Tiffany, why didn't you answer your phone? You bailed and left us stuck there to clean up your mess. I went to a luxury spa with my mom and left my phone in my bag. Didn't see any calls. What's going on? Just as I predicted. Tiffany and Luke had fought so violently the hotel staff called the police to break them apart. Once officers mediated their fight and left, neither Tiffany nor Luke would agree to pay the massive restaurant bill. The hotel had no choice but to dial the police a second time. In the end, every single person who'd attended the dinner was forced to split the total cost evenly. That single meal ate up nearly an entire semester's worth of Ivy and Lila's combined financial aid money. Tiffany's ridiculous "how do you flaunt wealth you don't even have?" And Luke's not a trust fund heir at all. He's borrowed cash from every friend he has, and he begged everyone he knew just to scrape together his portion of the bill. I pretended to be concerned about where Tiffany had gotten the money to cover her share. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for her to come up with her cut of the bill. Please. Ivy spat in disgust. She only had $52 in her wallet when police checked. They called her parents right then and there. Her folks said they'd already emptied all their life savings because she stole it from them, and told the cops only to contact them if she ended up dead. In my past life, those same parents had charged at my mother and me with fists flying, paraded protest signs outside our clinic slandering her, and destroyed our lives over their daughter's own reckless choices. Police escorted Tiffany away from the hotel that night. The next morning, cell phone footage of Tiffany and Luke's brutal brawl spread across every campus social media group. Every student on campus got a clear view of her lopsided, split-a-cup filler bust. Strangely enough, Tiffany never showed up to any classes after that day, vanishing without a trace. Our student affairs counselor announced Tiffany had requested a voluntary leave of absence for 6 months due to complicated family circumstances. I couldn't believe how easily I dodged the catastrophic ruin that destroyed my whole family in my previous life. That disaster erased from my timeline. I could fully focus on applying for my master's program. Back in my first life, I'd earned top exam scores and gotten accepted to study under the thesis advisor I'd admired for years, only to die before I could start my graduate coursework. This lifetime, every opportunity that belonged to me would stay firmly in my grasp. Day after day, I buried myself in graduate school practice exams, nearly forgetting Tiffany existed entirely. Then one afternoon, a sharply dressed woman with exaggerated curves and designer clothing walked into our dorm room while Ivy, Layla, and I were eating lunch. We all assumed she'd wandered into the wrong dorm suite. "Excuse me, miss, who are you here to see?" Ivy asked politely. I spotted her face instantly, even through all the cosmetic alterations. It was Tiffany. "Don't you recognize me now that I've fixed up my appearance?" Tiffany spun around in a self-satisfied circle to show off her new look. She'd changed completely. Her body was artificially curvy. She'd gotten a nose job, an eye lift, and her square jaw had been reshaped into a delicate oval face. Ivy and Lila stared at her luxury designer outfit, especially the high-end leather handbag hanging off her arm, their eyes glowing with envy. "Tiffany, you look unrecognizably UV," clearly struck it rich. Ivy immediately fell back into empty brown-nosing flattery again. Tiffany shot me a sneering sideways glance. "Scarlett, did your family's clinic go bankrupt or something?" You look so plain and cheap today. I glanced down at my own subtly branded luxury tee and shot back without hesitation. Funny you say that. Uve climbed from rags to riches. But Ivy and Lila survived the whole semester eating nothing but peanut butter sandwiches. They complained about you non-stop every single day. I've heard it all so many times my ears are ringing. I exposed her secret resentment. And the forced friendly atmosphere in the dorm shattered instantly. Come on, I'll treat you two to a fancy dinner, Tiffany said, reaching for Ivy and Lila's arms to pull them away. The two girls hesitated. Too scared to go along with her. Tiffany pulled a thick stack of $100 bills out of her designer purse. I'm covering every single dish tonight. Eat as much as you want. Anyone who wants to mope and ruin the mood can stay here and miss out. The three linked arms and strutted past me smugly. That single expensive meal won Ivy and Lila back over as her loyal simps once more. Memories of my horrific past life flashed through my mind. And I reminded myself I couldn't let my guard down around Tiffany yet. Tiffany became a prominent campus figure again, drawing crowds of male students who worshipped her as a campus goddess. Underclassmen especially idolized her relentlessly. She spent most nights living off campus, only stopping by the dorm occasionally to grab personal belongings. Every time she visited, a cloying heavy perfume lingered for hours afterward. The scent burned my sinuses and triggered brutal hay fever attacks all summer long. I'd always thought there was something unnerving about her strange perfume. An underlying unpleasant odor hidden beneath the artificial fragrance. Logically, her breast and hip filler had been self-injected with cheap drugstore syringes half a year prior. Those results shouldn't still look so flawless this far out. Word spread that Luke had become Tiffany's obedient lapdog. She was paying all his bills, turning him into a full-time kept boy toy. One evening after finishing my graduate exam practice, my head throbbed with exhaustion. I decided to take a quiet walk down the little side path by the campus west gate, a secluded spot with almost no foot traffic. Beneath dim street lamp light, I accidentally spotted Tiffany climbing out of a beat-up old minivan. An older man climbed out of the driver's seat and made out with her for ages, only separating when curfew for the dorms drew near. Now I understood where her extra cash came from. I ducked behind a tree to stay hidden, assuming she'd head back to the dorm. Instead, 10 minutes after the older man drove away, Tiffany waited alone by the curb and climbed into a small delivery truck. The streetlights were too dim to make out the second man's face, but I watched them make out passionately inside the vehicle for several minutes straight. I fought back a wave of nausea and bolted away once the truck pulled out of sight. So Tiffany was juggling 3 romantic partners at once, and neither of those 2 older men seemed wealthy at all. Plus, she was still funding Luke's lifestyle. I couldn't wrap my head around where all her money originated. The truth unraveled during our large literature lecture class. An elderly gentleman with a cane hobbled into the lecture hall, yelling he was searching for his fiancée. Sir, you've definitely wandered into the wrong building. You should be looking for a partner at a senior living community, not a college lecture hall. A student in the front row joked, triggering loud laughter across the room. Tiffany's body stiffened instantly, sweat dotted her forehead, and her eyes darted around the room searching for an escape route. Sir, what's your fiancée's name? We might be able to help you track her down, I called out loudly, standing up to draw the man's full attention. Tiffany Carter's my fiancée, my darling Tiffany. We were supposed to go to the county clerk's office to get our marriage license yesterday. I waited for hours out front, and she never showed up. Hundreds of eyes locked onto Tiffany in unison. Her face turned the color of raw liver. You deranged old man, you're making this up. How could I ever date someone old enough to be my own grandfather? The elderly gentleman slammed his cane hard against the lecture floor, making a loud thudding noise. You ungrateful, worthless leech. You drained every last penny of my retirement nest egg, and now you're pretending you don't know me. Mr. Carter, Mr. Wilson, they warned me you were a con artist, and I refused to believe them. He shouted toward the lecture hall doors. Mr. Carter, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Davis, Mr. Miller, come on in. Boys, I caught this liar red-handed. 7 elderly gentlemen filed into the classroom one after another, lined up like 7 elderly dwarfs. The entire room sat stunned at the absurd scene unfolding before our eyes. Each of the 7 seniors took turns recounting how Tiffany had tricked them out of their life savings. The saddest of them all had sold his own house for her sake. And he was 89 years old. The elderly man was a total hopeless romantic. "My darling Tiffany, selling my house doesn't matter one bit. I still have my monthly pension checks. I can rent a small apartment. I barely eat anything with my bad teeth. Every penny I make can go straight to you." Every student sat frozen, still processing the shocking revelations. Tiffany burst into fake tears. "All of you get out of here right now. I don't know any of you. If you refuse to leave, I'll call campus security to drag you off campus." Ivy and Lila felt obligated to defend her after all the free meals she'd bought them. Leave Tiffany alone. Her real boyfriend's an inherited real estate fortune heir. She's young and low-dodge. Never waste her time on you creepy elderly men. You're disgusting. Disgusting. Tiffany told me both of you were her dorm roommates. And that you two were also looking to date retired seniors for money. Are those 2 girls standing over there the roommates she mentioned? A short, stout elderly man asked, his dentures slipping out onto the floor as he bent down to retrieve them and pop them back in his mouth. "Tiffany, how could you scam elderly men like this and drag Ivy and me into your lies?" Ivy screamed, stamping her feet in rage. "Tiffany, if these accusations are all false, you shouldn't hide behind security. We need to call the police to clear your name once and for all," I said, pretending to offer kind advice. "Right, call the cops. Our campus goddess can't be falsely accused like this." Several gullible underclassmen still clung to their admiration for Tiffany. I knew they'd have their entire worldview shattered within minutes. "Call the police. Get the student affairs counselor." I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 immediately. Tiffany collapsed back into her lecture hall desk chair, her gaze empty and lifeless. The glare she shot at me was sharp enough to draw blood. I tilted my lips into a cold smile. This was only the start of the spectacle. Sitting close enough to catch the scent. Once her cloying perfume faded away, I caught a faint, sickly, rotten stench coming off her skin. Police arrived quickly and uncovered the full truth of the scheme. Every single elderly man had photos of Tiffany making out with them stored on their cell phones. Even the men with low-quality flip phones had clear images proving her identity. Tiffany had maintained romantic relationships with all 7 seniors simultaneously. Rumors spread that an 8th man had been scheduled to meet her that day, but couldn't attend because he'd undergone emergency heart bypass surgery that morning. Her schedule was rigid. She spent every night with a different elderly man, and whoever gave her the most cash got to stay with her overnight. I pictured the older men I'd seen her making out with that night on the side path and rushed to the bathroom to throw up my dinner. Utterly revolted, officers asked the group of seniors if they wanted to press formal charges. But every single one of them insisted they wanted to resolve the dispute privately without police involvement. Tiffany stood up, abandoning all attempts to pretend innocence, and spoke without shame. "What's the point of making a huge public fuss? I didn't complain about dating men far older than me, and you all got to spend time with a young woman. Why shouldn't I get paid for my time?" Her words shattered every student's worldview completely. In the end, Tiffany walked out of the lecture hall surrounded by her 7 elderly suitors, completely unrepentant. "I can't believe how shameless she is," an underclassman muttered. "Is this woman insane, or am I losing my mind?" His idealized image of the campus goddess crumbled entirely, and I had no doubt he'd suffer nightmares that night. Luke heard about the scandal and cornered Tiffany at the campus front gates. "You cheating whore, how dare you run around with all those old men behind my back?" Tiffany spat back contemptuously. "Please, every stitch of clothing on your back, even your underwear, I paid for. You're nothing but a kept boy toy I keep around to amuse myself. You don't get to accuse me of cheating." Luke couldn't swallow the humiliation and lunged forward to grab and scratch Tiffany. Tiffany shouted a single sharp command. "Boys, get him." The 7 elderly men swarmed Luke, swinging their wooden canes until he couldn't fight back at all. A massive crowd of onlookers gathered around the gate, confused by the chaotic scene unfolding in front of them. Random passers-by made wild guesses about what they were seeing. That young man must have hurt one of their granddaughters, so all the grandpas stepped in to defend her. One kind stranger guessed. A well-informed student filled the crowd in. "This is a fool in love triangle brawl, 8 people fighting over one woman. Ugh. If this were my daughter, I'd break her legs for disgracing our whole family chasing elderly men for cash. Men are all terrible, even seniors that close to death are chasing young college girls. That woman's no saint either. Her perfume's strong enough to smell from 2 blocks away. She's clearly a manipulative seductress. Local news stations picked up the story within hours, and our university became infamous across the entire county overnight. The day after the news report aired, Tiffany's parents showed up at campus administration. They camped out in the president's office, screaming the school had corrupted their daughter and demanding a massive cash settlement from the university. Our sweet girl was shy and bashful around men before she enrolled here. How could she turn into something like this? The stench of garbage clung to their clothes as they pointed their fingers directly at the university president, hurling crude insults about the school's education system. The president patiently explained Tiffany was a legal adult fully responsible for her own choices, and the university existed to teach students not to be extorted for money. They ignored every word he said, blinded entirely by greed. Name your price right now. If we don't walk out of here with cash, we're sleeping on the lobby floor until we get our settlement. We want compensation for lost wages and food costs. Every last cent. Instantly, vivid memories of their vicious behavior in my past life flooded my mind. Parents this cruel and money-hungry could only raise a daughter as toxic as Tiffany. Campus security called the police, and officers dragged the couple out of the office kicking and screaming, threatening to make the president regret crossing them. After the scandal reached its peak, the university handed Tiffany a permanent expulsion notice. She returned to our dorm to collect her belongings the day she signed her exit paperwork. Only I was in the room when she walked in, and she dropped all pretense of politeness to threaten me outright. You stuck-up brat, and get comfortable laughing at my misfortune. If I hit rock bottom, I'll drag you and your whole family down with me. I quietly unlocked my phone and hit record on the voice memo app without her noticing. Tiffany, you're just talking nonsense. Everyone in this dorm watched you inject filler into your breasts and hips yourself with cheap online syringes. None of this has anything to do with my family's clinic. So what if I injected it myself? When I run out of options, I'll lie and tell everyone I got all this work done at your family's surgery center. Do you think random online strangers will believe you? Or a poor girl whose body's been ruined by a botched cosmetic procedure? This malicious woman intended to recreate the nightmare that destroyed my entire family in my past life. It was fate, good or bad. I couldn't run from this fight. I smiled coldly. Instead of plotting revenge against me, you should focus on keeping your elderly sugar daddies sending you money. Also, your filler breasts and hips are completely misshapen now. You evil bitch, how dare you mock me? Tiffany raised her arm to slap me hard across the cheek. I caught her wrist mid-swing without breaking a sweat. You'd better carry an entire bottle of perfume everywhere you go from now on, or that rotten stench from your damaged filler will follow you everywhere. I stepped out of the dorm and closed the door behind me, still able to hear her furious screaming echoing down the hallway. I pulled out my phone and dialed Ivy's number right away. Tiffany came to grab all her stuff from the dorm, and before she left she swore she'd ruin your reputation and Lila's too. Make you pay back every meal she bought you too. Ivy ranted angrily for several minutes before hanging up. My top priority now was protecting my mother. I rushed straight to the clinic as fast as I could. Mom, I need to talk to you about something extremely important. Slow down and drink some water first. Honey, you're always rushing everywhere without a hint of gentle grace, my mother said softly. My father had passed away years ago, leaving only Mom and me to rely solely on each other. This lifetime, I'd protect her with every ounce of strength I had. Mom, listen carefully, what I'm about to say matters more than anything. Promise you'll follow every instruction. All right, my darling. I'm all ears. Mom stroked my hair gently and sat down beside me. For the next few months, do not accept any patients who come in needing breast or hip filler repair surgeries. No exceptions, no matter what. After I finished explaining everything, Mom stood straight up from the sofa, her expression turning deadly serious. Scarlett, I've taught you right from wrong since you were little. Even as a plastic surgeon, I live by a strict medical code of ethics. If I have the skill to fix a patient's botched cosmetic work, I will never turn them away. I'd forgotten how deeply compassionate and dedicated my mother was to her patients. This plan wouldn't work to shield her. I pulled out my last resort tactic. Mom, the stress of applying for my master's program is crushing me. I lie awake every single night. And I'm terrified I'm developing clinical depression. Mom panicked instantly, already reaching for her bag to take me to a mental health specialist. It's not quite bad enough to need therapy yet. Mom, let's take a vacation together. We haven't traveled anywhere, just the two of us, in years. When Mom hesitated, I pushed harder to convince her. It's not just a break for funeral, calm my anxiety and help me focus on my graduate applications, so I can ace every exam. Desperate to ease my mental stress, Mom agreed to take an extended vacation immediately. She told me to book plane tickets, and she'd drop all clinic work to leave at a moment's notice. I calculated the timeline perfectly. Tiffany's filler complications would fully erupt within a few weeks, so I booked flights for our trip right away. Before boarding the plane, I grabbed Mom's phone while she wasn't paying attention and sent a text message to our front desk receptionist. The message instructed her that while Mom was away on vacation, the clinic would refuse all cosmetic repair patients, especially anyone seeking treatment for damaged breast or hip filler injections. I told her to follow the rule without fail. No other surgeon at our clinic was qualified to perform complex filler reconstruction surgeries besides Mom, so this precaution eliminated all risk entirely. I submitted a leave of absence request to my university and powered off my cell phone completely. We traveled for 2 full weeks before Mom grew anxious to return home. I called Lila from our hotel room. The second she picked up, I heard frantic urgency in her voice. "Scarlett, where have you been hiding? Tiffany's been searching for you non-stop every single day." I feigned total ignorance. "I've been traveling on vacation with my mom. What does she want with me?" Lila lowered her voice to a hushed whisper. "She's begging for your mom to perform reconstructive surgery on her. You can't even imagine how awful her breasts and hips look now. They're rotting from the inside out, and the stench is unbearable every time she steps foot in the dorm." Ivy and I bolt outside immediately. We leave every window open all day long, and the odor still lingers for hours. I knew the disaster I'd been waiting for had finally arrived. If we'd waited another 10 days, even the most skilled surgeon in the world wouldn't have been able to save her damaged tissue. I begged Mom to extend our trip another 13 days, waiting until the damage became irreversible before we flew back to the United States. We'd barely sat down in the clinic lobby after landing when Tiffany showed up outside, unfurling handwritten protest signs and launching a live stream on her phone. By the time we walked outside to confront her, nearly 100,000 viewers flooded her live stream page. A cold wave of dread washed over me. His was exactly the public smear campaign that destroyed my family's entire life in my past timeline. I couldn't let history repeat itself. Girlies, listen closely and learn from my tragedy. This clinic ruined my body with botched breast and hip filler surgery. Look at what I've become. Tiffany twisted her phone camera to point directly at her chest. Her augmented breasts swelled like overinflated balloons beneath her thin shirt, thick pus and blood seeping through the fabric. A horrific stomach-turning sight. Poor girl, your whole life's destroyed. Someone named this evil clinic so we can all hard pass and avoid it forever. What unlicensed butcher performed this surgery? I hope every bad thing imaginable happens to them and their family. This is obviously an unregulated back alley clinic. Why didn't you pick a legitimate surgeon if you wanted work done? Cheap. This surgery cost me 10 grand up front, plus another 40,000 in failed repair attempts after the fact. This was nowhere near cheap. Tiffany spun endless lies without hesitation, her lips moving non-stop. Mom panicked instantly. A plastic surgery clinic's reputation was its entire livelihood. If their good name was ruined, the business would collapse completely. Young lady, there's a terrible misunderstanding here. We have 0 medical records for you in our system. Our clinic hasn't taken a single breast or hip augmentation patient in over 6 months. Tiffany spotted Mom stepping forward and jammed her phone camera directly into Mom's face. Girlies, this is the unethical surgeon who personally operated on me. She tilted the camera to capture Mom's name tag reading Eleanor Reed. Steer clear of this fake doctor at all costs. Mom had never endured such vicious public slander before, and she stumbled backward, nearly collapsing onto the pavement. Mom, don't let her lies get to you. Leave this to me. I told the clinic nurses to steady her while I stepped forward. Tiffany Carter, You claim our clinic performed your surgery. Where is your proof? Our front desk receptionist cut into the live stream. You visited our clinic once before, and I told you plainly we have no treatment records under your name. This damage was not caused by any procedure performed at our facility. Scarlett, this is all your fault. You evil girl. Tiffany turned her camera toward me. This is the surgeon's daughter right here. She tricked me, said we were classmates so she'd only charge me cost price, and told me they'd skip official paperwork to avoid extra taxes. I realize now it was all a trap her and her mother set up to dodge legal responsibility. Nothing but cold, venomous-hearted con artists. Everyone online commented that she had all curves and no common sense. Yet Tiffany's fabricated story lined up perfectly to fool casual viewers. Her live stream view count kept climbing, and local news reporters rushed to the clinic parking lot to cover the viral scandal. This is textbook scamming your own acquaintances. They took advantage of a poor student and destroyed her body. Just look at their cold, malicious faces. Call the state medical board. This illegal clinic needs to be shut down before they hurt more people. As public outrage hit its peak, I spoke loudly to calm the chaotic crowd. Everyone, please remain calm. We live in a country governed by law. Any accusation must be backed by evidence. You can't ruin a business's reputation purely based on unproven verbal claims. Several viewers in the live stream chat nodded in agreement with my statement. I've known Tiffany as my roommate for years, and I've shared my food, school supplies, and personal belongings with her countless times. Every single one of our classmates can confirm this. Ancient trivial history. Who cares about that garbage? Tiffany scoffed dismissively. Then I'll share facts no one else knows. Tiffany Carter injected cosmetic filler into her own breasts and hips inside our dormitory bathroom stall. My statement sent the entire crowd into uproar. That can't possibly be true. Even a tiny mole removal requires a licensed medical office. How could anyone inject filler into themselves at home? I think she's just making up lies to shift blame away from her family's scam clinic and fool all of us watching online. Tiffany's smile widened with confidence. Scarlett, don't waste your breath on weak excuses. My parents are on their way here right now, and we'll negotiate a cash settlement for all the damage your clinics caused me. I wonder if selling this entire business would cover the amount we're demanding. I quietly typed a text message to our dorm room group chat. I stand by every word I've said, and my witnesses will arrive any minute now. The live stream chat spiraled into wild speculation. Is there a huge plot twist about to drop? This drama's making me bounce off the walls with excitement. Ivy and Lila sprinted across the parking lot to the clinic doors, followed closely by our class president and student affairs counselor. Tiffany's face drained of all color, and she shot furious warning glares at Ivy and Lila, silently threatening them not to speak the truth. Tiffany, we can all testify you bought cheap filler syringes online and injected them yourself in our dorm bathroom. You even borrowed $500 from me to pay for the shipment. And you still haven't paid me back to this day, Ivy said firmly. Layla added her testimony next. I watched you sneak into the bathroom late at night to inject filler into your hips. You said Luke loved women with fuller curves. Wow, this girl's unbelievably reckless. Injecting cosmetic products into her own body without a doctor present. A live stream viewer commented. Tiffany, our counselor said sadly, Scarlett supported you endlessly for years. We all watched it unfold. You can't repay her kindness with such vicious false accusations. You haven't learned a single lesson from all your past trouble. Reporters swarmed forward with microphones, eager for more scandalous details. Counselor, what other shocking incidents has Tiffany been involved in? One journalist asked. Are you referring to the time Tiffany dated 7 elderly men simultaneously and stole their life savings? I turned to face every news camera, speaking loud enough for every reporter and live stream viewer to hear clearly. I'd like to take this chance to deliver a public warning to all families watching. Please check in on your elderly relatives, especially anyone with substantial monthly pension funds. Con artists like Tiffany target vulnerable seniors and drain their life savings without remorse. The perfect turn of events. I didn't even need to pull out my pre-recorded voice memo. Every reporter's microphone swarmed toward Tiffany, abandoning the clinic scandal entirely. Miss Carter, is every accusation these witnesses made accurate? Did you defraud these elderly men out of their life savings? Have their children been notified about what happened? Given the severe damage to your filler injections, is there any medical procedure that could restore your body's original appearance? In the pushing and shoving of the crowd, someone knocked Tiffany off balance, and she fell forward flat onto her damaged augmented chest. When she scrambled back to her feet, both of her filler breasts flattened completely like deflated pancakes. Her nose caved inward, and her jaw twisted lopsided to one side. The surrounding crowd stumbled backward in horror, and Tiffany's parents burst through the crowd to tackle her, striking her repeatedly across the face and torso. "You humiliating worthless leech. You swore you'd land a wealthy heir and support our family. Look at your hideous face now. You'd scare any man away." Tiffany's father bared his yellow-stained teeth and shouted encouragement to his wife mid-attack. "Beat her within an inch of her life. She's only good for eating our food and bringing shame to our family." Tiffany stood there disheveled and broken, nothing more than a hollow walking corpse. I turned to address every journalist present. "Would you all like to hear our clinic's chief surgeon explain safe cosmetic surgery guidelines live on camera? We can educate everyone to avoid the dangerous DIY filler mistakes Tiffany made." The free public health awareness coverage sent our clinic's client waitlist skyrocketing. New cosmetic surgery appointments were fully booked 3 years in advance. Months later, I heard updates about Tiffany's fate. The adult children of all 7 elderly men she'd scammed filed civil lawsuits demanding full repayment of their parents' stolen retirement savings. Her parents disowned her completely and kicked her out of their home to avoid legal liability for her debts. Not long after that, local sanitation workers found her body abandoned in a garbage dump. Her skin rotted away to exposed bone tissue from untreated filler infection. Ivy and Lila were haunted by their choice to act as Tiffany's simps for free meals for the rest of college. They rushed to graduate and move away from campus as soon as commencement finished. I earned full admission to my top choice master's program, studying under the thesis advisor I'd admired for years. I knew a vast, bright future full of opportunity waited ahead of me. A closing reminder to every reader: the desire for beauty lives in every human heart. Every single person carries unique, irreplaceable beauty within themselves. A rich, thoughtful mind far outshines superficial physical appearance. Cosmetic surgery carries significant risks, and all aesthetic medical procedures require extreme caution and licensed professional care.